Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome for the very first time to the Adventure Mode. For those who don't know what the Adventure Mode is, it is pretty much a continuous mode in which you can continue to go through the oceans, destroy enemies, and hope that you yourself do not end up getting destroyed. There are resource zones scattered around, there are huge warp gates to allow you to go from one area to the next, and it's pretty much the best way to learn how to build under pressure, because it is quite a difficult game mode. People have been telling me about it for quite a long time since it was introduced, mostly saying that it can be either ludicrously difficult or surprisingly easy depending on your luck, and depending on how good you are at building under pressure. I am terrible at designing and building under pressure, so this is going to be a learning experience, if nothing else. So let's begin the adventure, and I will explain a little bit more how it works as we get started. That took a surprisingly long time to load, but here we are finally in the adventure mode, and we have a mode description, which I really wish I found before I started recording the video. Would have made the intro a lot easier. So the world has been fractured between a billion planes of existence, and ships of all nations are trying to survive by salvaging from each other and searching for a way out. Green warp gates bring you to lower levels, whilst red ones bring you to higher. Blue warp gates plunge jump you to a far higher but empty warp plane, great for refitting your ship, but beware the difficulty level of the next plane you jump to. Eastern gates jump you to worlds with warp storms, poor weather, but more exciting gates. With the story out of the way, it's time to get building as fast as possible before the enemies start heading towards us. Now, one thing I did notice is that we still have access to at least this mode. Although we can't go to the overview map, we can at least control our ships, and hopefully if we have more than one vessel, we should have some control over it. Although I will be focusing on just one, because it makes things a lot easier. So for now, though, we need to get resources as soon as possible. So let's get started by actually turning mirror mode on. There we are. And the very first thing I will need is the wonderful, the amazing, and the ever so useful electric engine. Well, the fuel engine, actually, to start providing us some power. I'm so used to saying electric engine, since I normally am a massive fan of the RTGs, but the problem is, with the RTGs, they are very, very expensive. Although these will take up fuel, unlike the RTGs, just the initial cost is immense otherwise. So now we have that, what we will need is some fuel. Then that should give us about 100 power. In fact, exactly 100 power. It currently doesn't have any exhausts, so this will overheat. But honestly, right now, my only concern is getting the resources started so that we don't end up just sitting here doing nothing for far, far too long. Okay, so that answers one question. Apparently we have a localized resource, well, localized storage, which means we can't simply harvest without having some kind of storage on our ship. So, scrap goes there, we can't put scrap there, so instead I'm going to build it on the opposite side. There we are, 2 times scrap, and then we will continue like that for a while. 2 times metal, 2 times wood. I got a little bit confused there and went a bit quiet. So it turns out when you break resource containers, you don't get the resource that created the container. That's a really weird thing, not particularly important, but something I've just learned. But either way, there we are. Let's add a second resource gatherer. For now, we don't need oil, because we can just keep on remaking our little fuel canister, but that will be very inefficient in the long run, so we will need a fuel refinery. There we are, and there we are. So now this is at 167 power per unit of fuel. So let's continue by doing this. 345 power per unit of fuel. Very, very efficient, although I am rocking all over the place, so let's make this a little bit more stable. I don't know how I'm going to do this, honestly. Perhaps I should have thought about this a little bit more before going into this mode, but I don't know what type of craft I actually want to build. Am I going to simply build a ship? Or am I going to build a mobile fortress? Am I going to build an airship? I'm not too sure just yet. Oil drills in place, so let's quickly make a second engine. I could be making this a bit less fuel efficient, I could be making it so it's simply really, really powerful, but for now, I'd rather keep away from the oil refinery for as long as possible. Either way though, there we go, we have oil coming in, and we have a lot of regular resource. We even have a tiny bit of spare engine power, so I think it's about time we decide what we're going to do. I don't know how long we've got, so I am going to be a little bit rushed. We could make a very flimsy, very quick airship, and that wouldn't be too difficult, simply having the dedicated heliblade spinners on the back and the side, thus enabling us to control the pitch and control the roll angle. But at the same time, it would be a lot easier to simply make a ship. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with. I think for now, we're going to make a wooden ship, and if I decide to change my mind later on and simply make it into an airship, if we make a very basic shape, that should work out just fine, as long as we don't make it too complex. There we are, wooden inverted, now we need the slope. And then let's go for the beams. So that will be our front, something like this. Perhaps a little bit wider, but for now we'll just continue it as if this is our permanent design, just to make it a bit easier on ourselves. Either way, we need a very stable platform so that we can add a turret of some kind. Probably going to go with missiles, because although I have used missiles far too much in the past, the thing is, they're very cheap. They're very space efficient, and they can be incredibly long range. So when the enemy spawns in, we could potentially do a lot of damage to them before they even get close to us, which would be really, really helpful. And I'm sorry if I'm not explaining myself particularly well with what I'm doing, but honestly, I am really rushing. I've got a bit of a very mild adrenaline rush right now, because I've realised that the enemy could be spawning against us at any time. So, a little bit nervous about that, to be perfectly honest. About that far back, okay. Seems reasonable. Then continues to go down like... actually, we don't need to do that. Let's not make this bit go down. Let's add another one of these. Then that way, we can go down a lot slower. Okay, continue to harvest. Ooh, here's a thought. Is there infinite resources here? It is regenerating, but that isn't a definitive yes, it's infinite, to be perfectly honest. And with the whole idea of the adventure mode, I can only imagine it's going to be a non-infinite resource zone, so need to be really careful on resource use. Perhaps build the basic ship out of wood, and then after that, we could build any armor segments out of metal, and then the weapons themselves, of course, will use up a lot of metal and a lot of scrap. Okay, we're going to be a little bit silly. I've decided we are going to make this into a very basic airship. It's not really the best choice, because this is going to be remarkably flimsy considering our very limited resource pool at the moment, but at the same time it will allow us to be flimsy and kind of get away with it, since it will enable us to be quite quick and possibly dodge enemies whilst getting to the next resource zone, or perhaps even the next warp portal, pretty easily. At least, that's the theory. So then, let's just keep on building up here. So this is how it's going to look. We'll have the thrusters in this little cavity I've made here. The front section is obviously where the spike is, to be a little bit aerodynamic, not particularly, but a little bit. And then the main rotor blade will be in the centre, somewhere here. I will make the mass completely in the middle. Then at the back, we can add a tiny little blade spinner, which I'll put down now so I don't forget about it, which will be used to control our pitch, or at least to automatically control our pitch, so that we're nice and flat as much as possible. I could add rolling pitch as well, but the problem with that is just it will be a little bit extreme for such a small craft. Well, I will probably end up doing it, just not to start off with. For now, the sides will be controlled by the simple jet stabilizers. Let's do that. Okay, so let's say that we're going to put the centre of mass here. I think this particular part would be a little bit better. Let's put some metal in so we can instantly help defend it a little bit, and make it a little bit higher, so here. So what I'd like to do is try and defend that as much as possible. Air, helicopter blade, dedicated heliblade spinner, there we are, and then a couple of extenders. And that will be the main blade. I don't think this is the smartest option. The more I think about it, the more I think we're doing the wrong thing. But if we die, we can always start again. Actually, I would like to hear your opinion on that. So in the description below, there will be a straw poll. If I die, should I be able to go back to a previous save, or should I simply restart the adventure again, perhaps in a smarter way, learning and doing it over and over again until we're the masters of the... Oop, wrong way around. We are the masters of the adventure mode. Because honestly, either way to me seems fantastic, so completely up to you guys there. Okay, we'll actually completely metal this up instead, because it would look a lot better in my opinion, so we do that. And then let's do a beam. Destroy this, destroy the beam underneath. And then reattach the wood where it was. Then this way we can put the metal underneath as well, then this whole segment will all be connected by one metal skeleton almost, and then that will be the main strong point of the airship, with all the wooden sections being quite vulnerable. I want to save as much metal as possible in case this isn't an infinite resource zone, so that we can definitely have our weapons sorted, our thrust, our extra engines, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, still a lot of resource left, that's fantastic. So, what next then? Well, this should work, so let's put in the air pump, and volume is decent. Okay, buoyancy is very low though, so obviously we don't have much space on the inside, but that should be floating very well now, excellent. So if we do want this to be a ship, we have made an almost feasible ship, although now I do need a bit of a keel, and the keel will of course have the main centre of mass underneath where I want the blade. However, naturally, the mass is a bit further back, so perhaps what I should do is move the blade back as well. That would make more sense. Okay, then the centre of mass is being shifted over here, which actually makes a lot more sense when we look at the craft. The centre of mass is in the correct location, but an enemy is already coming towards us, so we need to get our weapons sorted out now. I was originally hoping I could have an underwing weapon here, but since the enemy is on the water over there, I think, ooh, we could have torpedoes. Very long-range torpedoes right now wouldn't be a terrible idea, so actually that's exactly what we're going to do. Change of mind from what I was about to say, so let's do that then. Don't really want that there, but for now it will do, because I can simply do this, and then underneath the wing we can do this, as soon as we have the resources for it, of course. So I'll just continue building this very odd torpedo system, and we'll be right back when hopefully that's working, and we can fire at the enemy. We're still getting resource right now, so for now, we're okay. Drastic change of plan. We are starting preparations to simply get out of here. Over there is one of the twin guard. I'm fairly certain it has lasers. The other enemy, which is over there, is definitely the weaker of the two. I've removed the weapons because we ran out of resource, and I have now fully prepared us, I think, to get out of the water. Well, here's hoping. And activate with full motor drive. Okay, I'm just hoping the anti-roll things are good enough for this. No, they're not. Okay, we are definitely tilting heavily towards one side at the moment. I would add that to always up, which would help out a little bit, but I found that is a little bit more vulnerable to damage. We have no more scrap left. Well, that's fantastic. Oh, we are up though. Okay, let's just change this so I'm in jet mode, back to building mode so I can see what I'm doing, and we should have full control. We do. Okay, we are out of here. We are gone. We are pitching upwards horribly because I've not set up the back pitch thing correctly. Oh no. There we go. That should do it. There we go. Everything's fine. Ignore my previous being scared. And now we can get out of here like the cowards we are towards another enemy. Gosh darn it. Other way, other way, other way. So yeah, I am completely out of scrap. Now the next patch, which should be coming tomorrow, so probably in the next episode, will be changing resource, so it's all one combined resource, which is kind of cool, honestly. So there'll be no longer scrap or natural or metal or anything like that, there'll be simply resource. So that is very, very cool indeed. So what is that one then? I feel like we could take that if we can at least set up a basic torpedo system. very, very basic torpedoes are now active. So we have a little 2-axis turret here. It has a few very weak torpedoes attached to it, and honestly speaking, we don't even have the ammunition to run this thing. But thankfully, even small torpedoes can be very, very powerful, especially against wooden opponents, because you can fit quite a few warheads on them, because you don't need much fuel. They're very, very fuel efficient in comparison to missiles, so this should do quite a bit of damage once it hits the target, in theory. Like that, for instance. Definitely knocked up its controls a bit. And second shot hitting now, and massive amount of devastation there, going right inside the target. So hopefully we can destroy this, gather its resources, and then get a second 2-axis turret on that side. Already the 2-axis turret is completely stuck. Because of course it is. I have built this whole thing so ramshackle and so quickly, I'm amazed we're even airborne. They should hit, and there they go. Some of the fragments going all the way through. Ooh! And I've just seen my first ever warp gate. That's a red warp gate, which means a harder difficulty. That is not what I'm after at the moment. We do not have an aircraft which is capable of any real fighting. The only reason I'm even winning this one is because it can't fight back. However, once we get the scrap from killing it, hopefully I can add a second set of torpedoes and perhaps a few anti-air missiles, which of course will have the laser designation, since the anti-air missiles will be messed up with flares and such. And slow down, and boom! There it goes. Let's make sure we're close enough to get the resource. 110 scrap we've got now. At least we can add a second set of torpedoes. I don't think I can do much more, though. Also, that over there looks more like an aircraft, which is very, very scary. Okay. What are you firing at? We need a maximum range to be set right now. You there. Maximum range. 1,300. There we go. That seems reasonable. Okay. We're okay. Everything's going fine. Also, apparently this robot is called Adventure Craft by default, which I just think is absolutely amazing. In like every single way possible. If I just break this one, it should... Okay. I was hoping it would then be placed here as well. Where is it placed? So it's one off the very end. So there. And we can't afford the weapon controller. Of course we can't. So goodbye to some of our turning. Because I'd rather have weapons which actually work, honestly. Mainframe requires 15 scrap. We are cannibalizing so much of our aircraft already, it's ridiculous. You do not get given much at the start of this, do you? About there. And, of course, maximum altitude as well. Ooh, it is indeed a ship, which means we could go and fight it. Also shouldn't have had that on, because that's silly. Let's done this. I mean, I guess we could. I mean, there's no reason why not. Maximum altitude, lower there as well. Okay, let's go and try and fight the enemy ship. As we slowly meander towards the target, I'm not sure if I'm proud of what we've done here or deeply, deeply ashamed. It's really a bizarre mix. I'm really happy we've made a helicopter which works in such a short space of time, but at the same time we have clearly went down the route of something which is too expensive and honestly just silly for the current mode we're in. What we really want to do... Oh, that thing's already firing at me. What we really want to do is perhaps build a ship. A ship would have worked a lot better. Is that a missile? Okay, so that's its max range. Stop. Turn off our maximum range limits. And if we're lucky, we can outrange its missile. Because honestly, like I'm saying, a regular ship would do this so much better. We could have added so much more. And been so less in debt in terms of scrap, because the big reason why our scrap has gone down so much is things like the dedicated heliblade spinner, the extensions which has cost us several hundred, all of the control blocks we need. There's a lot of stuff going into this which isn't needed on a regular ship. Also, I have no idea if these are even in range. Perhaps adding a bit more fuel to the torpedoes might work. Tactical mode engaged. Are the torpedoes hitting the target? Yes, they are. This mode is so helpful right now. I think we're going to win this one. So it seems like the enemy are pretty weak, though, to be honest. So it's pretty much like our craft. Certainly not the best. Can I still control this craft? Yes, I can! Oh, we almost got hit by a missile then. So that's cool, we can still control our craft while here, and that means we have destroyed the enemy, which means we can now go ahead and collect its scrap. Fantastic. This is a really weird mode to see from the depths in. I never use this mode in the regular game. I like how you can clearly see where the torpedoes are as well. Several more red rings currently towards the north. So that would up our difficulty. I think at this stage what I would like to do is try and find another resource zone. I'm fairly certain there's more than one resource zone per area, and right now I still don't feel safe going into a higher difficulty setting. I feel like we're in a good place right now. A decent, easy enemy could still probably kill us, but I feel somewhat safe in our capabilities in terms of speed and getting away from such threats. Now, here's the thing, we have got a little bit more scrap. What do I do? What do I want to do with it? I should really invest in an anti-air weapon, and to make things easier on myself for now, what I'm going to do is new objects, actually, to make things even easier on myself in terms of me being lazy, we're going to do this. Boop. And these are going to be altered so that they are anti-air versions. As you may imagine, I've already changed my mind, so I simply couldn't afford adding 2 turrets. I did not have the required scrap, so instead, I've added a little bit of extra speed, so we're now moving around about 20 meters per second, and I've added this small armoured box section for my character to sit in and for the Heartstone to be completely protected. This way, we should be a little bit less vulnerable against things like rapid-fire advanced cannons that may simply kill the character before even damaging most of the craft. At least, that's the basic idea, and I just saw something in the distance over there. Am I going mad? Or did I just see something over yonder? I may be going mad. Okay. I haven't seen anything else just yet. We have seen a couple more of those. That, I believe, is the original resource zone. But now I'm looking at it, I'm not sure if that's true. I would rather run the risk of continuing on and finding a new one rather than going somewhere which could very well be where we've already been. So, with that, I'm afraid I am all out of time for today's episode. If you have enjoyed the video and would like to see this series continued, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and like I just said, shows that this series, the Adventure series, is a series you wish to see continued on the channel as a series. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Next time, let's see if we can look a bit less derpy.